Once, I tried to be kind and help out a classmate who had severe facial scars. He got bullied, so I stood up for him. He struggled with his studies, so I tutored him. Everything was fine until the day he shyly confessed his feelings for me in front of everyone. I rejected him. Not long after, I overheard him in the school's bathroom, smoking and saying, "Tiffany. Yeah, I've been there, don't think she's all that innocent, she's actually really forward." Just like that, my reputation was ruined. Dad went to confront his family, but his mentally unstable father attacked my dad with a knife, killing him. Mom couldn't handle the grief and passed away shortly after. Yet, there he was, extending his hand from the mud, mercilessly saying, "Tiffany, you were unreachable before. Now, you're stuck in the dirt, just like me." When I opened my eyes again, I found myself on the day my scarred classmate, Mark, first transferred to our school. It was the first period of junior year. The homeroom teacher led a boy with his head hanging low into the classroom and introduced him. "We have a special new student today. Everyone should get along with him and make sure not to discriminate." Everyone eyed him with curiosity. As he lifted his head, gasps filled the room. His right cheek was severely burnt, there were no eyebrows, and his eyes looked like slits on his face. Immediately, whispers spread. "He's so ugly, nothing about his face is even bearable. Why did they have to place him in our class out of all the others? Seeing his face has ruined my appetite. How can he even dare to show up with a face like that?" With every word, his head drooped lower, hands clenching his pant legs tightly. My friend nudged me. "How do you think he got those scars? Maybe his careless parents burned him?" But something jolted me awake. Mark. I was reliving the day Mark transferred. This was where the nightmare began. Last time, Mark faced discrimination from everyone. He was older than the rest, being 19, yet shorter than the 17-year-old girls and quite unattractive. He was so withdrawn, no one really spoke to him. But I was overflowing with a sense of justice. I volunteered to have Mark sit with me. I fiercely defended him against mocking classmates. Faced with my friend's question this time, I retorted sharply, "Who knows, maybe he brought it on himself." As for Mark, the teacher was assigning him a seat. Yet whenever Mark approached, classmates scattered like he was plague-ridden. Slowly, Mark shuffled over to me. "Can I sit next to you?" But unlike before, I didn't invite him to be my desk mate. Instead, I stood up and addressed the teacher. "I don't want to sit next to him. If he insists on this spot, I'd like to move to the seat by the podium." The teacher looked awkward. Mark seemed to look at me strangely. "Tiffany, I mentioned we shouldn't discriminate," the teacher said, emphasizing class unity. I wasn't listening. Given a second chance to relive this, I wouldn't offer Mark any kindness. Then a girl nearby sneered, "Some people carry around their good student awards, but they're so fake. The new kid just wants to sit next to you, do you have to show such distaste?" I looked to see who spoke. It was Lucy. Last time, she and I competed for this student position. I got it, she didn't. She held a grudge and eventually spread the rumors Mark created about me. Seeing Lucy, I chuckled, "You're so compassionate, why don't you let him sit next to you?" Lucy, taken aback, turned sour-faced and fell silent. I continued, "What's wrong? Weren't you just being kind by defending the new kid? Or do you secretly think he's too ugly to sit beside you?" I emphasized the word ugly. Mark stood trembling, head lowered further. Provoked, Lucy shot back, "Tiffany, you're too harsh. Teacher, let the new student sit with me, I don't mind." Finally, Mark became Lucy's desk mate. I watched as Lucy, suppressing her revulsion, pretended not to care while tidying the desk. I breathed a sigh of relief. I couldn't stop Mark from joining our class, but I could avoid any dealings with him. The horrific events from before wouldn't repeat. This time, Mark was Lucy's desk mate. Lucy also stood up for him. Would she face what I did last time? Morning classes were filled with gossip about the new student. As soon as break came, my friend leaned in, "That's not like you at all, Why do you seem to have it out for this new scarred kid? Aren't you always the one who stands up for others? I thought you'd help him. My hand faltered while packing my supplies. So that's how people saw me, always fighting for justice? Is that why Mark spread lies after getting rejected? Did he assume I shouldn't have said no? I once heard that it's best to avoid people with physical deformities because they're usually psychologically messed up too. My friend was shocked by my statement, staring at me. But I didn't want to keep discussing it. I only wanted an excuse to go home and see my parents. That past life, the rumors Mark started spread through the entire school. Because he was considered disabled, the school only gave him a light slap on the wrist. They instead called me inappropriate and pressured me to leave without even verifying the truth. Dad, furious, went to confront Mark's family and was killed by Mark's unstable father. Mom refused to accept the court's decision, appealing multiple times, but failed each time. I still remember that night, slapping myself and begging for my mom's forgiveness, asking, is it wrong to help people? Why is there no reward for kindness? Mom used to say, helping people isn't wrong, but make sure you're always in a safe spot. I want you to be kind, but deep down I wish you hadn't helped him, so your dad could still be here. And then she just jumped off the rooftop. I can still remember Mark's smug, cruel grin back then. He said, crazy people can't be punished for killing, and now my loser dad's in the psych ward. Your dad really helped me out big time. Mark also said, now that your parents are gone, we're the same. We've both fallen into the same mess, and we're together forever. Turns out, the farmer and the snake story was playing out right under my nose. All because of me. My parents met a terrible fate. Now, all I wish is to have ensured their safety and know they're alive and well. I hadn't even gotten to the office to ask for a leave when I saw Mark being shoved into the bathroom by some of the guys from the class. I remember. In my last life, Mark was bullied by some of the troublemakers as soon as he arrived. They mocked his looks, called him a weirdo, made him drink toilet water, taunted him, and even took turns peeing on him. I stepped in because I couldn't stand watching, fought off those bullies for Mark. From then on, he thought of me as his savior, the only one who could pull him out of the mud. Now, I'm facing the same situation as before. But there's no way I'm sticking my neck out for Mark again. His sensitivity, insecurity, and supposed innocence? All an act. Inside, he's just a twisted, dark, bitter person. I took a couple of steps back, avoiding Mark's pleading eyes. I saw him getting his head stomped, dirty water all over his face. He still tried reaching for me, grabbing at my pants, help me. I dodged him. Only one thought popped into my mind, let go of this hero complex, respect others' fates. That's when Lucy walked out of the classroom. I figured she's gonna make a show of helping him, but she pretended not to see anything and walked back in. I found it kind of amusing. Mark got bullied, his clothes reeking, hair wet and plastered to his face. I watched Lucy overly cover her mouth like she was grossed out. Mark, what happened? Are you okay? Is someone bullying you? Tell me, and I'll tell the teacher. Lucy looked like she pitied Mark a lot. But Mark just kept his head down, silent. Sometimes, he'd look up and stare at me like he was thinking about something. It set off alarms in my head, felt weird. I hadn't done anything for him in this life. Why was he looking at me? Maybe even as his enemy, he'd hold a grudge. But I'm not afraid of it. 'Cause deep down, he's the type to pick on the weak and avoid the strong. Those bullies? He won't retaliate against them. But those who've helped him, he takes advantage of them like it's his right. This time around, I didn't help him. Didn't choose to sit beside him, didn't stick up for him when he was bullied. Last time, I spent countless nights hating myself for being so kind-hearted, for my sympathy that destroyed my family. I glanced at him coldly, what are you staring at? Got a flower on my face? I'm not the one who bullied you. Mark, feeling wronged, looked down again, hands clenched in fists, lips pursed and silent. Yeah, that's how Mark was in the last life. When stuff happened, he'd just keep his head down, tears about to spill. I couldn't resist helping him back then because of that pitiful look. Mark's behavior, of course, stirred laughter from the other guys. They mocked, a guy crying? Maybe he should wear a skirt. But you're so ugly, it'd ruin our appetite. Yeah, having someone like him drags our classes looks down. One of the bullies came over to my desk, Johnny. He'd crushed on me before, always got shot down. Seeing me get close to Mark, he got even more annoyed. He wanted to embarrass me by getting Mark to confess in public. Johnny was no good either. He thought since I wasn't answering, I was on board. He leaned in, whispering, I heard his dad's a moron, living off welfare. What if I make him pay protection money? Would his dumb dad have to live on air? I slammed my book on his fingers on my desk. He jerked back in pain, glaring at me, you crazy? Trying to play hero? Hearing that, Mark finally looked up, sneaking glances my way. I sneered, extortion? You might want to check the law on that. Don't worry, you're a minor, won't be too bad, maybe just a few years in juvie. Johnny stared at me, annoyed, you sticking up for him or something? Nope, just a heads up, stay away from him, he's bad news. As I left the classroom, Mark's gaze followed me, stranger than ever. After class, when everyone else headed to their dorms, I went to ask for permission to leave school. Just as I was walking out the gate, I heard a careful voice behind me. Thanks for sticking up for me earlier. I turned and saw Mark trailing behind, not even realizing it. I suddenly looked at him with suspicion, taking 2 steps back. My eyes were full of unconcealed disgust. In a harsh tone, I said, what do you want? Why did you follow me out of school? He quickly raised his hands, and with half of his face scarred from burns, tried to smile at me. But it came across as quite grim. Sorry, I scared you. I mean no harm. I just wanted to thank you. I know you're not like those classmates who make fun of me. You've always been a good person, he stammered, looking at me hopefully. It dawned on me that Mark was just a day student due to his family's financial struggles. He relied on a school poverty assistance program for lunch, going home for dinner. But I just felt sick and disgusted. Thank me? You're overthinking it. I never intended to help you. I'm not disgusted by your appearance but because of what's inside you, Mark. You have this unpleasant smell about you. You should stay away from me or I won't hesitate to be like them. I didn't want to go from being a victim to becoming a bully. But if being a bully would keep Mark away and protect my family from disaster, I would do it. My morals and values are only intact as long as my family and I aren't harmed. Mark stayed there, frowning, seemingly confused by my words. As I left, I heard him mumbling, it shouldn't be like this. I'm so pitiful, she should be more sympathetic. Hearing him say that felt like a snake crawling up my leg, giving me chills all over. I'd returned home, my parents still alive. I couldn't help but cry out of relief. Thankfully, there's still time. This life, I can still protect my family. Because of Mark's situation, I had to be extra cautious. I'm afraid of nothing but the thought that Mark might be like me, reborn. If that's the case, everything I've done would be in vain. So, I preemptively warned my parents, saying I'd been facing some bad things at school. Things that would tarnish my reputation. I told my parents about things that hadn't happened yet, emphasizing that even if they tried talking to Mark's family, it'd be useless. His dad has mental issues, and there's nothing we can do about them. And I didn't want this affecting my college entrance exams. I tentatively suggested transferring schools. At first, my parents didn't agree. But after hearing my reasoning, they sighed. There's no point in facing such people. Tiffany is right, we should just avoid this. Let's transfer schools so Tiffany's entrance exams aren't affected. Transferring schools isn't that easy. My dad has to pull some strings, which will take time. Back at school, I avoided any interaction with Mark. Whenever he was around, I automatically stayed away and spoke coldly to him. Before long, everyone knew I couldn't stand Mark, even felt uncomfortable breathing the same air as him. At first, Mark had a tough time, with his looks and poor grades putting him at the bottom of the class. But when Lucy, my rival, noticed how I specifically targeted Mark, she started being overly kind to him. She helped him with meals, tutored him, pretty much everything I did for him in a past life, she did now. But she wasn't sincere. She just wanted to prove she was better than me and paint herself as the kind one. Gradually, I noticed Mark's gaze on me lessened, and he started paying more attention to Lucy. At some point, he got close to Johnny, who used to bully him. They even started hanging out together. I heard Mark was giving Johnny money for meals and cigarettes, basically becoming his lackey. Mark now kept his hair long to cover the scarred side of his face, acting like some punk. He and Johnny ogled at girls in the corridors and bullied weaker boys. If Mark was a victim before, he sure became a bully now. Because of his unique appearance, the principal turned a blind eye. I sensed something bad coming, but my dad gave me good news. I was accepted into a prominent city high school after he pulled some strings. By next week, I could transfer. I sighed in relief, feeling my worries ease. I decided to act on my plan. Avoiding Mark was a last resort, but before leaving, I wanted to teach him a lesson. A gift that would be harmless if he behaved himself, but if he acted like in the past life, I'd make sure he dropped out. The opportunity came during the spring sports meet on Friday. Afterward, the high school gave us an extended weekend. Previously, Mark publicly confessed to me during the sports meet. But from my observations now, he's likely lost interest, especially with Lucy pulling him out of the mud. Despite my tension with Lucy, I have no reason to ruin someone else's happiness just because I've been in the rain. So, during the meet when we had free time, a guy approached Lucy. "Lucy, someone wants to meet you by the small woods near the garden. It's someone really handsome." He smirked suggestively. Every school has that spot where everyone knows people meet up secretly. Last time, this invitation was meant for me. But now, it was Lucy's turn. Lucy tilted her head, acting all superior, and said, "Who's asking me out? Unless you tell me, I'm not going." But even as she said this, Lucy started fixing her clothes, getting ready to go. I casually stuck out my leg and tripped her. Lucy fell flat on her face and jumped up furiously, yelling, "Tiffany, are you nuts? What did I do to you?" I stared at her coldly. "You'd better not go. Aren't you afraid the dean will catch you at a place like that?" Lucy's angry expression instantly softened. With a weird smile, she said, "Are you jealous because you heard a hot guy wants to confess to me? Well, too bad. You used to get all the confessions because of your looks, but now your reputation is horrible. No guy likes you anymore." I felt disgusted. How could she not understand basic kindness? "You tell me not to go, so I definitely want to go. You can go tell the dean if you're brave enough. I have nothing to hide." Ignoring everyone who tried to stop her, Lucy headed straight to the woods to meet him. I shook my head, not wanting to meddle. But today was a crucial day from my past, and to mess with Mark, I had to step in. I thought for a moment and then whispered some instructions to my close friends. I put a megaphone in my backpack and followed Lucy. Just as I entered the woods, I saw Lucy running out, looking panicked. Her hair was messy, and she grabbed my hand. "Tiffany, help me. Those guys had bad intentions. They wanted to hurt me." "Where are they? What did they do? Do you want me to tell the teacher?" I still remembered how in my past life, Mark tried to force a kiss on me when his confession didn't go as planned. Was Lucy forced too? "Don't tell the teacher. If you do, it'll look like I'm in a relationship, and my mom will kill me. Please, go talk to them. They are most afraid of you. Can you go and warn them?" Lucy avoided my gaze but kept pushing me toward the woods. I knew something was fishy but followed her in. As soon as I stepped in, about a dozen guys appeared, all troublemakers who usually hung out with Mark and Johnny, plus a few outsiders. They jeered, "Wow, you really managed to trick Tiffany into coming." Lucy's expression changed. She fixed her bangs and jokingly said, "What are you all waiting for? Bring out our male lead. We need him for this confession drama." Mark was pushed out in front of me, wearing his usual timid face. I raised an eyebrow. Mark came up, trying to look cool. "Tiffany, I've always liked you. Will you be my girlfriend?" I stared at Mark, then at Johnny and Lucy watching. I was totally baffled. Why was Mark confessing again in this life? "What do you like about me?" Mark thought for a second, then said, looking reminiscent, "I like your untouchable air, like a lotus that stays pure in the mud." That description made me queasy. The guys around us started cheering, "Say yes. It's a blessing to be confessed to by Mark. Don't you know how well known he is? He's the leader of our class. Toad and the Swan, huh? First time seeing it, huh? Mark, why are you hesitating? Be bold, go kiss her. How else will she know how you feel?" Encouraged, Mark grabbed my hand, trying to kiss me. I was disgusted and tried to dodge. Lucy, who didn't mind the chaos, shouted, "What are you guys waiting for? Help Mark out. Hold her down. I want them to kiss today, huh?" As they started closing in, I quickly pulled the megaphone from my bag and turned it on. The harsh noise made everyone instinctively cover their ears. I placed it near my mouth and asserted confidently, "Get away from me. Do your parents work hard so you can go to school and date? Why waste time? Wouldn't doing some worksheets be better? You're disrespecting the teacher's efforts. Unlike me, who only focuses on getting into a good school. You lured me here just to pull me down, but dream on." And Mark, ganging up with these outsiders to bully classmates? How can you repay the class teacher's guidance? How about the scholarship from the school? No one looks down on you for being poor, but acting this way shows your morals are messed up. My loud voice combined with the spontaneous speech threw them off guard. As I dramatically finished, applause broke out from the wood's edge. The dean, bald and shiny, walked in, followed by a stern-faced class teacher. They pushed through the crowd. "Well said, Tiffany. No wonder you get honors every semester. This is what a student should be. You, and you, all of you, office, now. Calling your parents. I don't recognize you. Are you from outside?" The outsiders tried to run when they saw the dean but got caught red-handed. They immediately yelled. It was Mark and Johnny who asked us to help, saying there's a sports meet today, and we could sneak in. They said the girls in their class are pretty and easy targets. Not sure where Mark found these people, but they ratted him out instantly. Mark turned pale at that moment. The next second, he went straight to his knees in front of the homeroom teacher and the director. "Teacher, it wasn't me. Johnny forced me, he's been bullying me for a long time. He made me do it." Great, everyone's passing the buck like pros. Of course, Johnny denied it too, and the two of them just ripped each other apart, pointing fingers. I casually threw out another question. "So, extorting money from classmates, was Johnny forcing you there too? Care to explain how you came up with the money you've been giving Johnny for over half a month?" I pulled a piece of paper from my bag as I spoke. "Teacher, I have a list here of classmates who were extorted by Mark and Johnny. You can confirm with them whether I'm telling the truth." Mark's face turned ghostly white at that point. I knew I got the result I wanted. I sneered down at Mark, who was still kneeling, and he looked at me with disbelief. It seemed he realized this was all part of my plan. From the moment I walked in with Lucy, I'd sent my desk mate to get the director and homeroom teacher. I didn't think Mark would confess his feelings for me again. I figured he'd just try to give me some trouble with his cronies. Turns out, this was even better. I'd prepared a loudspeaker beforehand. So, news of what happened in the woods pretty much spread throughout the whole school. And the ones involved were already thorns in the sides of the director, generally at the bottom of the class rankings. So the director decided to set an example. They called in almost all the parents involved, including Mark's. And because of my brilliant maneuvering, playing up the director, and helping the extorted students, I got praised in front of the whole school, effectively clearing myself from the mess. In the school's office, it was the first time I saw Mark's dad. He wore worn-out, deep blue overalls, had a dark complexion, stooped, with a large lump on his back. His hair looked unkempt, and he was covered in dust, as if he rushed over from a construction site. As soon as he entered, he kneeled before the homeroom teacher without a word and started kowtowing, acting like the picture of sincerity. I stood by, indifferent, watching this supposed respectful man who had murdered my father in a past life. This man, despite being called honest, stabbed my dad 18 times, and escaped legal punishment due to mental issues. I took a step back as my parents arrived. They were a bit bewildered by the scene. My father seemed to notice my fear and patted my shoulder. "Tiffany, don't be scared. We're here, and we'll stand up for you." I nodded. I wasn't afraid, this time. There was no way I'd let things repeat themselves. The homeroom teacher seemed awkward with Mark's display. "Mr. Mark's father, please get up and speak clearly. We called you here to discuss Mark's education, not this." Mark's dad finally looked up at Mark and without a word, kicked his legs out from under him, sending him to the floor. "Teacher, tell me what this punk has done, and I'll make sure he gets punished." Even as Mark's father resorted to violence, Mark just kept his head down, staying silent, not making a sound even after being kicked to the ground. The homeroom teacher felt helpless. "Mark's parent, please calm down." Then they recounted the whole story. To everyone's surprise, after hearing everything, Mark's dad turned his gaze on me. It was an unsettling look, identical to how Mark usually looked at me. He mumbled to himself, "All over this girl, huh? I thought it was something serious. My son, huh, always getting the prettiest girl around for a girlfriend at school. He won't have trouble getting married one day." His words shocked everyone, especially my dad, who nearly started a fight. But Mark's dad switched gears, smiling with yellow teeth showing. "What, something wrong? Why's it all my son's fault? There's no way he'd be drawn to some egg if there weren't a crack in it. This girl definitely led my son on, she's got plans for him." I spat, told him to shut his filthy mouth or I'd slug him right in front of the teacher. Like father, like son, they were both bad to the core. My dad was red in the face but kept his cool, thanks to me giving them a heads up earlier. Otherwise, he would have already charged forward. I finally understood why my normally composed dad ended up stabbed during an argument with Mark's dad. It was because Mark's dad was even more despicable than Mark. "Dad, don't waste your anger on him. Your daughter's done nothing wrong, and if necessary, we'll just call the cops about what his son did." Hearing me mention the police, Mark snapped his head up, looking alarmed. He hurried forward to stop his dad, explaining, "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. My dad is mentally ill, don't take his words seriously. Please, I'm begging you, don't push us over the edge, my dad and I both have disabilities." Mark then knelt before us, pulling the classic guilt trip maneuver. The homeroom teacher sighed. "Maybe we should just let it go, Tiffany. We know you're a good student, and you can see Mark's family situation is rough. His dad has mental illness. There's no need to escalate it to the police. Kids, hormonal as they are, can make mistakes. Luckily, nothing serious happened. Why not just put it behind us?" But I stood firm. "It's too late. I already called the cops. Mark tried to assault me and extorted other students. If the school can't handle it, let the police sort it out." My goal was to blow this up. Ideally, with police involvement. This way, Mark wouldn't dare spread lies about me later. Now everyone knows, he got tangled with punks outside and tried to assault a girl from his own class. With this history set, if he ever dared to spin rumors about me, I'd sue him for slander. Of course, if I can manage to get him expelled, then whatever rumors he spreads won't be my problem anymore. Because my parents won't get hurt or even lose their lives over this. He always thinks he's the underdog, so others should help him, pity him, and sympathize with him. His crimes come with no cost. That's what fuels his arrogance. When Mark saw I wasn't budging, he tossed aside his usual timid facade. He glared at me with red eyes, and said viciously, "Tiffany, you're so cruel. Do you want to ruin me? Even if you don't like me, do you really have to destroy me? And anyway, I didn't actually kiss you, so how does that count as harassment? Ruining him? I'm just giving back the hurt he dealt me. Can't handle that? Your affection makes me sick. Also, you didn't succeed, so it's called attempted harassment, thank you very much." I didn't say more, and my dad calmed down too. The police had arrived. Because Mark kept repeating a year, he's 19 now. Meanwhile, I'm only 17. It's considered forced harassment, and although it was only an attempt, I could still press charges. But not many girls would make a fuss and would just endure the injustice quietly, worried about gaining a bad reputation. Blame society for being too harsh on women. Spreading a lie is easy, debunking it is exhausting. Too many misinformed gossips out there. I've seen it all in a previous life. I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I bear the consequences for him? Mark, Johnny, Lucy, and the others were publicly reprimanded by the school and given major demerits. But Johnny's family has connections, and Lucy is usually a good student, so the teachers went easy on them. Mark was special. For him, the punishment was up in the air. He was a transfer student due to special circumstances. Society and school have been overly lenient with his family. Even the parents of students he extorted were hesitant to pursue things further after seeing his father and learning of Mark's disability. They feared negative public opinion. With the police involved, Mark managed to shift half the blame onto Johnny, including the bullying he originally faced from Johnny and his crew. There was truth in this, so the teachers leaned towards believing Mark was forced. The final decision surprised me. Mark was just suspended for a month. In my past life, when false rumors about me spread, the school immediately suggested I leave. Not long after the suspension news, a video suddenly appeared online. In the video, Mark's father and Mark were being interviewed at their home. They lived in a rundown place, chaotic inside, with just an old bed frame and some worn quilts. Mark's father wiped his teary eyes and said, "The punishment for my son is too harsh. I know he's always bullied because of his face, not looking like others. But I didn't think they'd force him out of school. What did we do wrong? Is it so hard for a disabled person to find a way to live? My son is always well behaved and hardworking. Look at these certificates from his school. How could he do such a thing to a classmate? There must be a mistake. I hope that girl sees this and helps us clear things up." The video panned to a wall covered in certificates, mostly from elementary school. Mark looked into the camera, saying softly, "I don't know why she hates me so much. At school, she was flirtatious, and maybe she misunderstood my glances as interest. But I'm not like that. I admire her as a good student and wish she would clear this up." The video quickly gained traction, soon hitting 1 million likes. Almost the entire internet started looking for the girl allegedly framing him, likely me. They didn't mention anything about Mark's extortion. Though this time around, Mark didn't spread rumors about us being intimate, he used video to portray me as promiscuous. That kind of implication leaves too much to the imagination. The power of public opinion is terrifying. By now, I had transferred to a new school. It was part of the plan, whether or not Mark left. I wanted away from that environment and its people, they only hurt my studies. I thought staying away from Mark would shield me, but in this life, they chose to ruin me online instead. I took a deep breath. I knew it wouldn't be easy to shake them off. But I'm not without plans either. As the online storm brewed, my personal info was quickly unearthed. Almost everyone assumed I was framing Mark. They thought someone from his background couldn't possibly do such a thing. Society is often overly sympathetic toward disabled individuals. But they didn't consider that among them are both good and bad people. Mark and his dad are the bad ones, using their status to harm others. My parents were furious and wanted to post a video to clear my name. But I stopped them. With trending topics, simple clarifications don't work. You need something bigger to overshadow it. Right now, Mark is seen as a good student, a poor, disabled kid who's motivational and hardworking. What if we revealed his darker side? He didn't always behave well when he was trying to impress Johnny. As online praises for Mark piled up, a lot of colleges were bending over backwards for Mark, showing sympathy. Then suddenly, a new viral video popped up. This time, someone exposed how Mark used to make inappropriate jokes with girls and even bullied younger students for protection money. At first, no one believed it. But soon, more videos came out. Some people just wanted to ride the wave of Mark's popularity, while others were sharing genuine stories. One comment stood out, "That Mark in the video? I know him. He lived next door when we were kids. You know how he got those burns on his face? He was trying to steal stuff at my house and accidentally knocked over the stove. Our place burned down, and his face got burned. Somehow, we were the ones who ended up paying a lot. Where's the justice in that?" That comment quickly got 100,000 likes. More and more dirt about Mark started to surface. People began to question the truth behind the video of Mark and his dad. Honestly, I didn't need to do a thing. They spun their own web of lies and were eventually caught in it. Those who planned to help Mark's family backed off one by one. In no time, Mark and his dad went from heroes to villains. As for me, I stopped caring about them. They can't affect me anymore. No one's going to believe whatever they say now. I heard that Mark's dad got fired because of all this drama. He was so mad that he tried to steal copper wire from the construction site at night, planning to sell it. But he got caught. In the chase, he fell off a building and died. Mark tried to get compensation for his dad's accident, bothering the construction boss every day. But that guy just declared bankruptcy and disappeared. With no money and no skills to support himself, Mark's life was reportedly pretty rough. I, on the other hand, started over at a new school. Epilogue. One night, I planned to hit the movies with some friends. On my way back, someone jumped out at me from an alleyway. It was Mark. He looked like a mess, glaring at me. "It's all because of you. You happy now?" "I have nothing left." Taking a deep breath, I whispered to my friend to call the cops. "You have nothing because of your own actions, not me. You brought this on yourself." If Mark could get that, he wouldn't have come at me with those words. I was worried he might get desperate and go down with me. My fear came true when he pulled out a knife from his sleeve. He said with a twisted smile, "Lately, I've been having this weird dream. Wanna know what it is? In it, on my first day transferring, I was your desk mate. You took care of me, brought me breakfast, helped me catch up in class, and even stood up to bullies for me. So why's everything different now? You do like me, right? You just didn't want to admit it 'cause of what others might say." "I know it." Mark seemed totally unhinged. His words made me frown because he was describing memories from a past life. I always feared Mark might have been reincarnated like I was and would predict my moves. But that turned out wrong. Still, I was creeped out by how he remembered. I stared him down. "You think too much of yourself. Even if your dream was real, how does helping you mean I like you? Liking someone isn't about hurting them. I told you before, being liked by you makes me feel sick." Rationally, I knew not to provoke Mark, but I couldn't keep it in. My friend tugged at my sleeve nervously. "He's nuts." I called the police. "Let's get to a crowded area." Mark kept staring, his grin growing crazier. "My dream was real, wasn't it? You dreamt it too but decided to strike first, didn't you? Just 'cause I liked you. But you were always so nice. Can't you just accept me?" Taking a deep breath, I replied, "Mark, liking can't be forced, and it isn't about hurting. You only brought me pain. True love means striving to be someone worthy, not dragging someone down to your level. Mark approached with bitter resolve. I'll never be on your level. But if I ruin your face, you can't escape your fate, and you'll belong to me. He laughed maniacally and lunged at me with the knife. I grabbed my friend and ran. We'd stalled long enough. The cops showed up just in time, taking Mark down, knife and all. He ended up in jail for attempted murder. He'd be in there for a few years, at least. Leaving the station, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The flashing streetlights and the officer kindly offering us a ride home reminded me that there was kindness beyond the chaos. Passing through the neighborhood, I spotted an elderly lady selling veggies late at night. Even with the scams out there, I spent all the cash I had to take everything off her hands. Go home early, it's not safe, I told her. Her wrinkled face split into a grateful smile, giving me the best-looking vegetables and change back. Little girl, they'll spoil. I appreciate it. You get home safely too. There are lots of folks who aren't doing so great in this world. Some are kind-hearted, and some aren't. No matter what, your own safety comes first if you're gonna help someone. Here's hoping the world has a bit more light and a bit less darkness. May kindness never go unappreciated.